I should have known trouble was brewing when I spotted Karen Hutchinson power walking down Maple Crest Drive at 6:47 a.m., clipboard in hand, her head swiveling like a security camera scanning for violations. As the HOA president of Willowbrook Estates, Karen had elevated suburban surveillance to an art form. What she didn't know was that her latest target happened to be the chief code enforcement officer for the city of Millbrook. The whole mess started with my mailbox. After moving into the neighborhood 3 months ago, I'd replaced the builder's generic black plastic box with a beautiful vintage-style copper mailbox that matched my 1920s cottage aesthetic. I'd specifically chosen it because it met all federal postal requirements, something I knew intimately from my day job dealing with municipal regulations. The first note appeared on a Tuesday, tucked under my windshield wiper like a parking ticket. Dear resident of 47 Maple Crest Drive, it has come to the attention of the Willowbrook Estates Homeowners Association that your mailbox does not conform to our community standards. Please refer to Section 12.3 of the HOA Covenants regarding uniform aesthetic standards. You have 14 days to remedy this violation. Sincerely, Karen Hutchinson, HOA President. I chuckled as I read it. Section 12.3 was one of those vague clauses that ambitious HOA presidents love to weaponize, but it had to comply with federal postal regulations, which my mailbox absolutely did. I decided to take the diplomatic approach first. That evening, I knocked on Karen's door with a folder containing the Postal Service requirements, my mailbox specifications, and a friendly letter explaining the situation. A woman with severely straightened blonde hair and the posture of someone perpetually ready to ask for a manager answered the door. Mrs. Hutchinson, I'm Robert Williams from 47 Maple Crest. I wanted to discuss your note about my mailbox. Her eyes narrowed. Mr. Williams, I'm glad you're taking this seriously. That thing you've installed is completely inappropriate for our community. Actually, I brought some documentation that might help. I held out the folder. The mailbox meets all federal requirements, and those supersede HOA regulations according to. I don't need to see fake documents. She crossed her arms. The mailbox goes, or you'll face escalating fines. Good evening. The door slammed shut. I stood there for a moment, folder in hand, marveling at her commitment to willful ignorance. In my professional life, I dealt with plenty of difficult people, but Karen was operating on a whole different level. The second note arrived exactly 14 days later, this time hand-delivered to my door. Second notice: mailbox violation. Your failure to comply with HOA standards has resulted in a $50 fine. Continued noncompliance will result in additional fines and potential legal action. The board will not tolerate defiance of community standards. Karen Hutchinson, HOA President. I had to admire her dedication, even as I started a file folder labeled Hutchinson, Karen, Documentation. As Chief Code Enforcement Officer, I'd learned that meticulous record-keeping was essential, especially when dealing with people who confused authority with tyranny. Over the next month, Karen's campaign intensified. She took photos of my mailbox from multiple angles, measured the distance from the curb it was exactly where the Postal Service required it to be, and even left a laminated copy of what she claimed were community standards taped to my front door. Each incident went into my growing file. The turning point came on a Saturday morning when I returned from grocery shopping to find a contractor's truck in my driveway. A man in work clothes was examining my mailbox with a crowbar. "Excuse me," I called out, "what are you doing?" "HOA hired me to remove this mailbox," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Lady said it wasn't authorized." "I'm the homeowner, and I absolutely did not authorize this." I pulled out my phone to start recording. "You cannot remove my mailbox without my permission." The contractor looked relieved. Honestly, I was having second thoughts. Seemed weird to remove a perfectly good mailbox without talking to the owner first. As he drove away, I noticed Karen watching from her window across the street. I waved cheerfully and went inside to add this latest incident to my file. Attempting to remove someone's mailbox without authorization was a federal offense. Mail tampering was serious business, but Karen wasn't finished. The next Monday, she left a note that made my jaw drop. Final notice: since you refuse to comply with community standards, I am filing a formal complaint with the City of Millbrook Code Enforcement Division. Your continued defiance will not be tolerated. Karen Hutchinson, HOA President. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the note and trying not to laugh. Karen was actually filing a complaint with my own department. This was going to be interesting. The next morning at work, I found Karen's complaint in my inbox, submitted through the city's online portal. She'd attached 17 photos of my mailbox, a hand-drawn diagram of my property, and a 3-page letter detailing my flagrant disregard for community standards and municipal authority. I called her that afternoon, using my official city phone. "Mrs. Hutchinson, this is Robert Williams from the City of Millbrook Code Enforcement Division. I'm calling regarding your complaint about a mailbox violation at 47 Maple Crest Drive." Williams, her voice changed, becoming uncertain. "Wait, that name sounds familiar. I'm the Chief Code Enforcement Officer. You filed a complaint about a mailbox at 47 Maple Crest Drive." There was a long pause. I could practically hear the gears turning. 47 Maple Crest. That's... Oh no. Oh no. Her voice got smaller. "You're not. You can't be the homeowner you've been harassing about a perfectly legal mailbox." "Yes, Mrs. Hutchinson, that would be me. This is impossible. This has to be some kind of joke." "No joke. I'm calling in my official capacity to inform you that your complaint has been reviewed. However, there are some issues we need to discuss. I'll be conducting a site inspection Thursday at 2 p.m. But you can't investigate your own property. Actually, I can and I will. What I can't do is ignore a formal complaint filed with my department. I'll see you Thursday, Mrs. Hutchinson." I hung up before she could respond. Thursday arrived with perfect autumn weather. I put on my official city polo shirt, grabbed my clipboard and citation book, and drove to my own house. Karen was already waiting on the sidewalk, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else in the world. "Mrs. Hutchinson," I said professionally as I approached. "Mr. Williams, maybe we can work this out. I didn't realize." "Ma'am, you filed an official complaint with the city. I have to investigate it properly." I pulled out my clipboard. "Let's start with your specific allegations." Karen looked miserable. "I think there might have been a misunderstanding. Your complaint states that the mailbox at this address violates municipal code. Is that accurate?" "Well, I thought. I mean, the HOA rules." "Mrs. Hutchinson, do you understand that federal postal regulations supersede HOA covenants?" Maybe we should just drop this whole thing. I'm afraid it doesn't work that way. Once a complaint is filed, I have to complete the investigation." I began walking around my mailbox, taking measurements. "However, since I'm here in an official capacity, I should mention that I've noticed some potential municipal code violations in the neighborhood." Karen's face went pale. "What kind of violations?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken over the past month: the oversized community center sign, the fence encroaching on city easement, and the flower beds blocking sight lines at the intersection. "These are all violations of municipal code," I explained. "The sign alone carries a $200 fine per day until it's brought into compliance." "You're doing this to get back at me," she whispered. "Mrs. Hutchinson, I'm doing my job. These violations exist regardless of our personal conflict." I pulled out my citation book. "The HOA has 30 days to bring everything into compliance." I handed her the citations: $200 per day for the oversized sign, $150 for the easement encroachment, and $100 for the sightline obstruction. That's $450 per day in fines until these are corrected. Karen stared at the citations, her hands shaking. "This isn't fair. You're using your position to get revenge." "Mrs. Hutchinson, these violations existed before our personal conflict began. I have photos documenting when each violation occurred." I closed my citation book. "I'm required by law to cite violations when I observe them. The fact that you filed a complaint against me doesn't give the HOA immunity from municipal code." "But I didn't know who you were. That's exactly the point. You spent months harassing a resident over a legal mailbox without bothering to research federal postal regulations. Meanwhile, your own HOA was violating actual municipal codes." I headed toward my car. "I suggest you discuss these citations with the HOA board promptly. The fines start accruing tomorrow." As I drove away, I could see Karen in my rearview mirror, still standing on the sidewalk, staring at the citations in disbelief. 2 weeks later, I received an official letter from the Willowbrook Estates HOA board. signed by the new interim president. It was a formal apology for the misunderstanding regarding my mailbox, along with confirmation that all municipal code violations had been corrected. Karen, apparently, had resigned from the HOA board to pursue other interests. I kept the letter in my file, right next to Karen's original complaint. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people dig their own graves, especially when they're so enthusiastic about the shovel work. My vintage copper mailbox still sits at the end of my driveway, gleaming in the afternoon sun and meeting every single federal postal requirement. The mail carrier loves it, and my neighbors have stopped to compliment it. Karen drives a different route to leave the neighborhood now, which suits me just fine. After all, I've got my eye on a matching copper garden gate that I think would look perfect next to my completely legal, federally compliant, and absolutely gorgeous mailbox. Please like and subscribe for more great HOA Karen and other revenge stories.